I want to talk about Rey Mysterio next, Finn. He is in the news. He spoke to Alistair McGeorge at the Metro and he was asked about him and Dominik and about having a match with Dominik at one point. And he said, we actually talked about this a while back when my son started to train. The more and more we got to spend time together in the ring and outside of it, it came to the point where me and my son just felt that there's no need. The connection here is so beautiful, the love, more than father and son. I think we're like best friends. For the moment, there's no time for us to even be thinking, how would it be like to face each other? We're enjoying such a great moment right now within our personal lives, within our wrestling careers. For me, it's a complete blessing before I end up retiring to have been able to share these moments with my son. So that possibility of facing each other, I think, was thrown down the trash a while back. Now, in wrestling, Finn, they always seem to want to do things, whether it works or not. Where do you sit in the camp? Should they do Rey and Dominik and hope for Brett and Owen, or should they leave it alone like Matt and Jeff?
I mean, it depends what Dominik's ambitions are in WWE and also what Rey's ambitions for Dominik are in WWE. Now, if Dominik's going to become a bigger star than he is now, I think he's got to turn on his father and he's got to defeat him. I mean, if they just have a babyface versus babyface match, which they could do, and Rey could say, right, I'm retiring, or this is the last match of my contract, I'm going away for now, Dominik's he's going to represent the Mysterio family on his own. He's ready now. My work is done here. He's ready to become a single star. I guess he doesn't have to turn on him. They could do that as a face versus face thing. And I think it actually would work. He doesn't have to do the turn. But I think if he did become a villain, then that creates character opportunities, which he probably doesn't have as a babyface. I mean, I think, it's not uncharitable to say that he's, rather dull as a character, Dominik. I mean, there isn't much to him as a character, is there?
No.
So if he really wants to move from where he is now further up the card, he's going to have to develop that aspect of his act. There's a huge void there. He's just not very exciting as a character. And at the moment, he doesn't need to be because he's in a tag team with his father, who's really, carrying that end of it as part of the act. So they're a double act. So, I'm in two minds about it. I guess they don't really need to do it. And if Dominik and Rey are satisfied with Dominik being this mid-level player, then, yeah, he doesn't need to really do anything differently to what he's doing now. But if he has aspirations to climb that ladder, Kenny, he might have to get dirty. He might have to do some things that he doesn't want to do. But I think he's going to have to, in all seriousness, he's going to have to develop who he is to become more than what he is now. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. I've said sort of loads of times that I hate that WWE didn't have them win the titles in front of a crowd at WrestleMania. I think that would have been such a big moment. But Natalya and Tamina was also a moment that existed in time. But I think with Rey and Dominik, if they have a match or they have a feud, I think because to me, I always think with family feuds that like they either really work or they either really don't. It tends to either be great or terrible, and most of them tend to be really bad. And I guess the question, because I know Matt Hardy had said this a while ago about, nobody ever wanted to see me versus Jeff. And I mean, the irony is they did finally make it work, and as the final deletion match where they kind of made it happen because he changed character. But like to get that or to get Brett and Owen is such a high bar. So, but at the same time, even like Dustin Rhodes. He didn't have to face Dusty. They were a team. You don't always have to go down the route of turning. But at the same time, I think if they've got a story, I just don't trust the story is going to be good enough to take the risk. I would rather that Dominik kind of sets himself off on his own. But I do think you're right. I think he's going to have to turn heel because I think if he stays a babyface, then it's just going to be comparisons to his dad forever. Yeah. It's just going to be the same thing. And he has to forge down a different path. And, they've been talking about how they want to find a new Latino star. Dominik's only 23. He's got a lot of potential as a wrestler, but he does need to find the character. And I think, Mysterio Jr. is probably not the way to go.